Everybody, welcome back. Tweet here. Alright, let me pop out chat here. What's up, Faded? Once you get those nether weaves, that's probably where it really starts kicking in. Because nether weave cloth is so easy to get, I feel like. And that's such a huge jump. Those 12s are a pretty good, like, probably a pretty good bargain too. Are those silk? Or are they cloth? I can't remember. Or no, they're mage weave, aren't they? I barely got my writing. Black Falcon lent me 5 gold. So I keep having to buy skills. That's the thing with Shaman, is like there's so many like skills I need to be upgrading because you use so many buttons.
It's just business.
That's what I need to be doing. I need to be getting that TSM trade skill manager thing. Yeah, I don't know what you did, Black Falcon. I was asking. Better. What'd you say, Ray? Oh, I gave her a hug before. I got you some juice too. There's your juice. Fresh juice. I don't know, man. It sounded bad, whatever it was. But I don't know the nature of it. I mean, she probably, I sent a Discord message to Gormick to see, but she probably, I'm assuming, doesn't want to, maybe she doesn't want to say exactly what it is because she's afraid of, I don't know, ratting out the informant or informants. But yeah, I mean, I would like to see a transcript on it. I mean, it sounded like it was several people. So maybe it was something that you said in guild chat, maybe it was something you said in Discord. I mean, I'm sure it probably has something to do with humor, right? Like maybe you were joking about something and some people didn't think it was funny. I don't know. I mean, I just listed what it could possibly be, like.
Let's dance.
Maybe you could have said something like hunters are garbage, cat, or, you know, whatever, something like that, or whatever. If it wasn't an LGBT thing, it sounds like it probably wasn't. Or just like, maybe it's something like, hey, if you're not 30 yet, you're bad, you need to step it up. You know, something like that. Well, you would think you would. I mean, that's the whole thing, is I don't understand why there's not a warning, why it escalates straight to that. I mean, the only thing I could see where it's like immediate. That's right, Mal. Where it's just like immediately just saying, hey man, you're garbage, why don't you quit the game, you know, as far as bullying goes. Or obviously anything super racist or homophobic or whatever. But if it was like misunderstood humor, that's what I don't understand.
To Summoner's Rift.
If it's just saying something like people who are under level 30 need to step it up, or it's the whatever Dad Guild weekend, people are logging in, you know, something like that. Well, I mean, that's what I would think, but I don't make the call on it. I mean, I'm not sure. But yeah, I mean, that's the type of thing that would be zero tolerance, or like would get someone kicked, is if you're saying something that's like a racist joke or an LGBTQ joke or something, and several people heard it in guild chat or on the Discord and they just immediately like reported it. That's what it sounds like. Well, they said it, she said she talked with, like, I don't know if it was literally every officer, but it was like multiple officers about what happened, and they all agreed it was a kick. So, I don't know. So, it wasn't just her. And she said, you know, that she said her hands are tied. She's like, I understand, I wish we could do more about it, but my hands are tied as far as the policy. So, it may not necessarily have been her call, was kind of the vibe I'm getting, maybe. It may have been, like, 3 or 4 officers. I mean, maybe. If it was on Discord especially, there would be a record of it, right? Otherwise, it would require chat logs or something. I mean, she didn't tell me the nature, like, she said broadly what it is, but she didn't reference a specific thing. And I'm trying to talk to Gormick to see. Falcon got kicked from the guild for, like, supposed bullying and, I forgot how she, inclusion, exclusion, whatever. That's what makes me think it was the exclusion thing. I don't know. That to me sounds like an LGBT thing or a race thing, but
most good guys kill themselves.
well, apparently it was multiple people complained about it. So it was either one post that everybody complained about on Discord or in guild chat, or it was multiple instances per person. It doesn't, I mean, I can't imagine it would be an actual thing, and what, like, maybe if you told a group, did you tell a group, like, hey, I'm not gonna help you run this, or like, hey, can anyone help us run this dungeon, and you were too high of a level, and maybe you said something like, nah, man, get on my level, I'm too high of a level for that, you know, maybe something like that triggered some people. I don't know. Over multiple days. Okay, well, yeah, I mean, it feels like you should have been warned then. I was assuming it was the same person, like, or, like, either... My best guess was it was something that was posted up broadly socially, either on Discord or guild chat, and that multiple people complained about it at once, and they just took action on it at once. But if it was like different instances over multiple days, it feels like you should have been warned.
But it is less complicated.
Again, unless it's like dropping the N-word or something like super obviously egregious. Feels like a slightly off-color joke or something. Should not be an insta. Did I miss the cannon? No, I didn't. Okay, good. Okay, so I'm gonna have to get Grievous. think.
I only believe in myself. And
Graves could still be here, man. Well, not like first item, probably. I gotta like consciously do a better effort of body blocking the W, I think, if someone's like in trouble or is gonna get CC'd. Do I have to get mercs here? Damn it, wait a second. Yes! Right on the money. It really sounds like it was not just her call. Oh yeah, so that I see what you're. I didn't read the whole conversation, but
Ally has been slain.
yeah, it sounds like they don't want to like say who the people were that complained, or I think they should at least say what the nature of it is and provide like text chat like evidence, and just like blur out the person's name or something. At least say like what it was that happened. I mean, maybe it's super specific where you would know who it was, but still, like, I personally think you should be given a chance to like at least explain what happened and probably apologize and get a warning. Like, that's what I think. Why not first item? You're extremely squishy if you get that item. And typically, it just doesn't yield enough, like, results early game before they get multiple plus healing and shielding items. I mean, on Soraka maybe, but like Sona, her W is kind of wimpy, especially if she's maxing Q, which a lot of Sonas do now. I mean, Nasus does heal, Graves heals. Well, I just don't know what the nature of the allegation is. It is, like, really weird. Jinx just didn't... How did they beat us over there when we had the push? That's what I don't understand. How was Jinx not, like, right behind me?
can't kill evil.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's too broad, like bullying and exclusion or whatever. Like, I think... I guess I'm gonna have to get mercs. Like, it's just too much damage if I ever get hit by Lux. And Sona, too, with her CC. Yeah, I think that's exactly right, Fade. I think you could still say, like, the specific nature, like a text log. Well, you shouldn't be trash-talking your own teammates, but or people in your own guild. But I don't think that... It doesn't sound like that's what Falcon did, right? I feel like anything like that would be some kind of joke. I said something like, hey man, you know, like someone's trying to get you to run a dungeon, you know. You might say like, oh, you know, I'm too high a level for that. Get on my level, we'll run something. You know, something like that maybe. Is probably what happened. I don't know. Yeah, like, unless it's just like, hey, you suck, like, learn how to heal, and the healer lets you die. You know, if you're saying stuff like that all the time, then in theory, yeah, I mean, that's bad. But either way, it should be a warning. Like, whatever it was, unless it's like dropping the N-word or, you know, just saying something crazy, racist, or homophobic. It feels like anything else should be just about, you know, should be a warning for a first offense. And if it's do I need a what ring? A warning for coughing? No, you're allowed to cough. That's my whole thing. And like, it's just like multiple people over multiple days. Yeah, but if she doesn't tell you, if no one tells you, then how are you going to change the behavior? Because clearly you think it's okay, which is why you're doing it. If it wasn't like something sneaky, like DMing somebody on their social about something, you know? I don't know. It just seems weird. I know, but I mean, I'm just saying, like, I agree, like, that kind of bullying, I could see if you're, like, saying that someone is just bad over and over. Like, you don't want to, I don't know. I wouldn't want to be a part of a guild that's, like, got that kind of vibe, personally. Well, I saved her, but I died for it. Yeah, but I mean, like, it's how you say it, right? If someone needs to step up, yes, you can, like, you know, especially in, like, a raid environment, sure, you know, you can, but there's ways to do that, right? You can do that, you can message them personally and have it come from a place of wanting to help them, right? Or, like, wanting to help the guild. Say, hey, man, I notice you're, you know, a priest and you're never using flash heal or something like that, and the tank's died a couple of times. You know, maybe consider changing that, right? But that's really, like, you should probably run something like that by an officer first and then have an officer tell him, right? Like, so in our TBC guild, I first ran it by Smuzzy, like, hey, the warlocks are not using person recklessness. Like, we need to get them to do that because it increases the DPS of all the physical damage dealers by 8%. And then Smuzzy's just like, I don't want to rock the boat on that or whatever. And then I asked one of the warlocks directly. I was like, hey, do you think you guys should be doing recklessness? And then he's just like, nah, it's not worth the personal loss in DPS. It totally is, though. They were greedy. But it's like, that's how you handle it. You don't call people out, like, in the middle of guild chat or something like that. I'm not saying that Black Falcon did that, but I'm just saying that, like, in theory, if there was something like that, I think it would be warnable, and it would be something that you would want to get past. Yeah, exactly. I'm just theory crafting, like, what someone could be, like, that mad about if it's not race or, you know, letters. LGBTQ, all that. Gender, maybe? I guess could be sexist. Say it's something like women belong in the kitchen or something in chat. That could be a thing. Real gamers are men, you know, something like that. I just feel like we just don't have the damage to kill him. I'm gonna see if she goes Shirelia's. I may not get Grievous. I don't know. Like, it is good against Nasus though late game. I doubt it would be because of how you're tanking dungeons. Was there... So, let me ask you this. Was there any sort of friction in any of your interactions with anybody? Was there anyone where you had like a weird dungeon run and people seemed to be getting frustrated, or... Yeah, I mean, I'm just guessing. I don't think you would. That's why it's so mysterious to me. Yeah, I really don't know. Hopefully Gormick will be, like, a little more forthcoming. I have a little bit of rapport with him. Not a lot, but we've chatted some. You know, he came to the channel one time, so hopefully... Just a lot of people don't know who I am, you know, so I have no, like, ethos with that. Except for maybe Gormick, but it's probably, like, it's not going to be as much as other people. I mean, it really doesn't make a lot of sense for them to be weird about you being a high priority on Paladin, because they could just tell you, hey man, we're going to give this to somebody else who's an old, like, guilty of ours. What the fuck? How did he get through that? Dude, what? Maybe they weren't active, man, but they activate really fast.
The dream of darkness.
Okay, I don't know what she's getting. I'm gonna get Shrelia's though. Like, it's very good with Udyr. And like a lot of these situations, we would have killed him. Yeah, but it seems like if the goal is to get you to not be one of the tanks for like one of the raids, like they could just tell you that. They could just say, hey,
as far as the eye can see,
you know, we've been on, we've raided with this guy in the past, or he has a lot more experience on Wrath specifically, or something like that. I'm just letting you know, we're gonna go with him as a tank. Right? Like, that, boom, easy. Like, if that's what the issue is. I don't think they'd have to do something as convoluted as, like, create this conspiracy about bullying to accomplish that, right? They could just tell you, hey, this is how it is. Like, they don't even really have to justify anything like that in theory. I should just let it go. They could if they don't want to confront somebody, but they are confronting it.
An enemy has been slain.
With these chains, like, they're making a huge public thing about it, just G-kicking him out of nowhere.
It's daily affirmation.
That's pretty confrontational. Like, if they didn't want to confront him, they just like, wouldn't say anything. And then just wait until raiding goes and just say, hey, these are the people that are going to be tanking.
Your team has
Like, that would be
destroyed
non-confrontational. I just don't think so, because they don't need to do that. all they would have to do is just say, these are the people we're going to tank with.
I love evil. And evil.
I mean, yeah, I wish they would talk with them more, but I'm just saying the narrative about, like, people making shit up that's just, like, completely unfounded. Mosquito. Got him. I just don't think that's it. I think it's genuinely you said something that pissed some people off, and that's how it is. Now, whether or not that's justified, you know, I don't think a flat-out ban probably is. Again, given I don't know the situation.
Your team has destroyed
Were you taunting somebody with some kind of like mental disability? That would seem extremely odd. I don't know. It just seems really weird to have, like, no warning. Like, that's the thing. But yeah, it sounds like it wasn't, like, legit complaints from multiple people to me, because they wouldn't need to do that to not make you tank. I mean, yeah, it sounds like it's probably something like I said, like, you either said that a certain class was bad, yeah, a certain build is bad, like, maybe you said something like warriors are bad, they can't tank, something like that. And then people just, like, blow it out of proportion.
If you forget my name, just call for the Lord of Darkness. Prince of Evil, the Emperor.
Maybe someone said they wanted to raid as herbalism and mining, and you said that sounds bad. I don't know. Yeah, I don't think that's kickable. I mean, in my opinion. But yeah, it could just be you know, talking about something about game balance. Certain classes are bad, certain builds are bad. Certain classes are going to be the best. But again, that seems like a huge stretch. Just to comment on the game. But the thing is, I just don't buy into the narrative about someone getting a spot, because they straight up said from the beginning that no one is guaranteed a spot for anything. They said, we will try our best. If someone is similarly geared and prepared for the first raids, we will try our best to honor people who signed up early. But that's it. They never guaranteed anything. Yeah, if you said something political, I guess that could be a thing too. It doesn't have to be race or LGBT. You could have just said, I think Trump is horrible or something. Maybe you said something about Trump being really bad, or Biden being really bad, or something like that. That could be a thing. That's true. But that wouldn't get into bullying. Or I mean, I guess maybe it could. If you're trying to bully, if they feel like you're bullying Republicans or something. I mean, that would kind of fit that bill. Exclusionary, that type of thing. So yeah, I mean, if you said something political, I guess that could be it. Maybe. Again, should be warnable, though. Like, that's my whole thing. I mean, I know I'm light on the discipline side of things, but I think that's the best way to be. But I think most reasonable people, if someone said something that was politically, like, just too hot of a take or something,
from the whispers of star fields,
I would think that
secrets of the galaxies, the wind of the seventh moon. Ooh,
yeah, but I mean, I don't know Black Falcon's politics, but I feel like he's on the other end, right? I feel like Black Falcon's liberal, but it could be like someone in there is a Trump supporter, and maybe he talked trash about Trump or something. I mean, that's what I would think.
I only believe
Political or racist, but I mean, maybe that could be a kind of bullying. Yeah, I mean, that is a good guess too. I didn't think about that angle. I was just thinking it was going to be, you know, because in my mind, that's like one of the only things, right, that would get somebody insta-kicked. It's just like the same stuff on League of Legends, right, for the most part. Like, super racism, super, you know, homophobia or whatever, or telling people to go kill themselves, you know, something like that. I mean, did you say something like, man, warriors should go kill themselves in Wrath because they're going to be horrible in raids? You know, something like that. I mean, I guess you could even say something like, man, like, not being able to get these Stranglethorn Tigers makes me want to kill myself. I mean, I guess you could have said something like that. Still, or like, these people, this Stranglethorn Tiger Mafia should really go kill themselves or something. I mean, maybe it's something like that. It's a KYS situation. I mean, Lux is gonna laser it. mean, I'm just speculating. I don't know. Yeah, it could be a KYS. I mean, the exclusion is what has me, because if it was just like bullying, that'd be like bullying to yourself, I guess, if you're saying I want to kill myself, not being able to do these quests in STV, right? Fuck. Oh, she got me with her E. Damn it. Let's think about that. Okay, she did get it, so I'm gonna... God, it's already healed for so much in these fights. I'm gonna have to get the Grievous here. Why are we making excuses for this bully?
How do the Star Guardians see anything? Their sparkles are so darn sparkly.
Yeah, I mean, I might be the same way.
Darkness?
I don't know, man. I've gotten Grievous before, and some games it just feels like it doesn't do a lot. Like, Moonstone is kind of Code Red, though. But, like, you're really, really squishy if you don't have it, man. Like, it's definitely very noticeable. I wish it had HP on it, but...
I dance to the beat.
I haven't seen anyone else like get kicked or even reprimanded. I don't see a lot of stuff, but it seems really, really weird, man. I don't know. She's gonna...
Between the rules.
It does seem really weird.
Stare in the mirror. It's daily affirmation.
I don't think so. I can't imagine. It doesn't feel like Gormick is the kind of guy that would be that sensitive. Like, he's ex-military, right? And I have to believe it's something that is a misunderstanding of some sort, right? Like, I just don't think that, you know, Black Falcon would say something that's just like overtly super homophobic, racist, or whatever, right? I think it's probably a failed attempt at humor. That's my guess. Like, that's the only thing I could think of. Some kind of sarcasm or something that just didn't go over very well.
I look good in dark.
And someone who's like, sounds like several people were just really sensitive to it. That could lend further credence to being like a women thing, right? Like, that you offended multiple women on there or something like that. Like, if it's multiple people, they might be part of the same, like, group.
Woo! I am so
Who would be
far past
offended?
redemption, I am in the fun zone.
I don't know.
Population Rakan.
So, yeah, my best guess is probably something with LGBTQ or women. You said something that pissed them off. Some people, yeah, I mean, some people are soft online. The thing is, you don't have any context And I mean, some stuff, like, does need to be cleaned up, right? Like, it's not like all of it is bad. I mean, there definitely is a history of, you know, mistreatment of women in various races and things like that. But I think there is taking it too far, too, to some extent. I think, you know, definitely in some situations, there could be some benefit from, you know, moderation. So it's not that, like, all of that stuff is always wrong, right? Like, you know, black people have been historically oppressed. Women have been historically oppressed, right? But stuff is, you know, somewhat changing for the better, right? I mean, some stuff still needs to be changed. There's still some work that needs to be done. But I think that people do go a little too far to the extreme sometimes, too.
For the Lord of Darkness, Prince of Evil, Emperor.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't think it's good. What about incels? I try not to use that term. I mean, that is a very specific political term, but there definitely are, you know, a group of disenfranchised, you know, usually young men. And I mean, there is. Again, it's really difficult, but just because you're socially awkward and don't have a lot of luck with women doesn't necessarily mean you're a bad person. Oh, made a joke with incels? Yeah. I don't know. I've stopped. I said that at one point because I had a very specific, like, meaning in mind, but I realized it's just not a good term to use. Incel. Yeah, it's a software company. Because it's just so much room for misinterpretation, and you should just err on the side of positivity anyways. My computer runs on Incel 7. Nice.
Doing the right thing was boring. I'm way more fun now.
And it kind of just normalizes, you know, the narrative that you're not a normal person, or you're not a person that has any value unless you're having sex with people, right? It's sort of underlying the incel insult, right? It's like, it's almost like calling someone a virgin as an insult, but it, you know, tries to create this specific class of disenfranchised or disgruntled men or whatever. Yeah, I understand. Humor is a thing too, and I think a lot of people, again, humor is so difficult, but I think people should be given a longer leash with humor. But it's so difficult for humor online, especially when you don't know people, like, super well. You let your deer get some silent pressure.
Let's start a fight.
But I mean, there are limits, you know, to humor, I think, to some extent. It's so very contextual, though. But my thing is, especially if it's inadvertent, right? If you're not intending to piss people off or stir them up, I think it's a lot less controversial. Like, if you're doing stuff that's deliberately controversial to try to get a rise out of people, you know, I think there is still a space for that with some humor, but I think that is, in and of itself, is more controversial, right? Like, I can understand people having a problem with that if you're trying to make people feel bad or, you know, stuff like that. But especially if it's inadvertent. If your intent is not to make people feel bad, you just think something is amusing, and your honest intent, you're hoping that other people will also find it amusing and that everyone's just going to have a good time, I think there should be a long leash with that. Yeah, exactly. I mean, there are some things, obviously, right? Like joking about, you know, anything super racially charged or LGBT or something that's like really hot in current events, right? Joking about Ukraine, joking about Uyghurs and genocide in China. This Udyr, I mean, he's got a... No, actually, he does have a good KDA. I was like, man, his KDA is bad, but he's put in some work. But that's the Arthas, that's all. We had a lot of paladins. I feel like it has to be more than that. But you say something about like, man, we got a lot of paladins and most of them are bad. There has to be something that you're just not remembering. I feel like. But regardless, unless it's something extreme, there should be a warning. That's what I think. I mean, but it just depends on how it's done. Like, one of my favorite skits of all time is the Chappelle's Black-White Supremacist. I thought that was absolutely hilarious. But, you know, he can... I feel like he has the authority to be able to do that. Sorry, someone told me to turn the volume up or down, I thought the other day.
Stars are just
I could,
sad, lonely light bulbs floating in space.
I could turn it down. Does anyone else think it's really loud? Hey, what's up, Adrian, by the way? Someone said yesterday it was kind of loud, so I turned it down. I didn't adjust the volume. But yeah, Dave Chappelle was great. Now, I listened to one of his things, like, from 2019, the thing that he was, kind of got in trouble for that was controversial. He referred to, like, the LGBTQ people as, like, the alphabet people or whatever, and I don't know that I necessarily found it super offensive, but I just didn't find it, like, as funny. I don't know. I was like, it just felt like taking a cheap shot because they were different. Like, it wasn't exposing some kind of, like, you know, funny quirk, right? And the fact that he's, like, not a part of that community also, I mean, that's something that is really difficult with humor, too. It's like, I feel like you have a longer leash if you're part of whatever group it is you're critiquing. Like, women critiquing women, people of different races critiquing their own race, LGBT. Okay, turn the volume down. Okay, I'll get it in a second. Now, is that fair? Theoretically, I don't know that it's fair, but I feel like and it's just like someone critiquing their own parents, right? Say, man, my parents are bad, or someone critiquing their brother, man, my brother's a dumbass, or something, right? But if someone else says it, then it's different. It has a different kind of tone to it, right? It's like if it's part of your group, whatever the group is, it feels like you have more leverage to critique it, right? Because it's perceived as it's coming from a place of self-critique as well, when you're critiquing your group to some extent. Like, I feel like I could make fun of educators or something like that, or I could make fun of parents in some way, or, you know, just whatever. I could make fun of nerds in some way, right? Because I'm like part of these groups. So it feels like it's also self-effacing, right? I think one part of humor that, if you're critiquing other groups, is it can be perceived as you trying to make yourself seem superior to other people. I think that's part of humor. It's so weird when you get into the theory of humor. I remember I had a class that like got into that some, and it just feels so strange when you start dissecting humor. I mean, I agree to some extent. I mean, I think that people should be allowed to make jokes about stuff that you personally don't find funny, or that, you know, maybe mildly ruffle your feathers or are not, like, in your taste. Right? Like, I think people just need a bit of a bigger leash on that. To some extent. Again, there are some things where I think that people are going too far. Right? But, you know, there's also something to say for, like, whatever your values are, and I think people could, you know, benefit from this a lot in our society as well. That doesn't necessarily have to be what everyone else's values are. It's good to have a diversity of different perspectives and different values. Even if it's people you disagree with, especially if it's people you disagree with. Again, there are limits, right? But I think that in general, there's way too much these days of us versus them, and if someone disagrees with me, then like they're wrong, or I need to like not like them or something like that. Yeah, I think mental health is also at a super all-time low in general. I've talked about this, I'm sure, several times on stream, but I think that that's leading to people being more agitated, to people being more depressed, more anxious. A huge part of that social media and how the algorithms work. I know we've talked about that a lot. How it tries to push people to extremes on Facebook, YouTube, all those platforms, because they monetize people's emotions, basically. And they try to get you to click on emotions. And unfortunately, for a lot of people, the negative emotions get the clicks more. Now, I think that funny can work, but unequivocally what has been working is fear and anger. I think there should be a lot more funny. I've actually, from what I heard from several sources, I was researching some of this because I showed a couple of videos about this to my like 102 classes last semester, that like positivity and humor can work, but it takes a while to build that up. Like, that's good for building communities, building a brand for content creators. That's why, like, some of the most successful channels are funny channels, or, like, feels good channels are, like, the biggest ones. You know, stuff like PewDiePie or, you know, Markiplier. I don't know a lot of the other ones. I'm not super up on it, but a lot of the most successful stuff are funny, like, feels good, you know, vibe type of channels. The fear-mongering stuff will only get you so far, but it does get those clicks. And I feel like there are more fear-mongers out there because it's just the easiest way to get the clicks. But if you're trying to build a community to have long-term success as a content creator, I think the feels-good, funny stuff works. But that's particularly just with, like, younger audiences. Not always, but... But yeah, most of the news and everything else is designed to get people angry, get people to click, and then that makes people feel anxious, that makes people feel frustrated a lot, and then they take it out on other people because they don't know how to deal with it because it's so ubiquitous, right? It's just everywhere. Yeah, but it's like, it's so hard for people to break out of their shell because most people don't have any sort of education or training in critical thinking, like to be able to dissect those algorithms, because those algorithms are so powerful. People don't realize it. Like, everyone thinks, oh, those things can't affect me. It's just like advertising. Everyone thinks that all the marketing, all the advertising never affects them. They're just like, well, I saw a McDonald's commercial. I didn't go immediately buy McDonald's, so therefore, you know, advertising doesn't work on me. But it slowly influences people and what you think sort of about brands, about the world. There's a reason that there's billions, if not trillions of dollars spent on advertising every year. That wouldn't work, like, or that they wouldn't be paying that much if it wasn't working. So people are just not quite as critically engaged or as smart as they think they are, just to put it kind of in a bluntly. But they could be if they had the right training. But our K through 12 is garbage, at least partially by design, I think. I mean, it doesn't have to be the Illuminati, but it's like not getting funded. And a lot of people don't want a smart populace that can critically engage with all the rhetoric. They don't want people to be immune to advertising. They don't want people to be immune to simple political slogans. Right? That's going to make their life harder. It's going to make it a lot harder to control people, get them to buy stuff, get them to vote a certain way. So I'm not saying like everybody is trying to do that, but there's a reason it's not getting funded. And that's why they emphasize, you know, sciences. Go be a doctor, go be a nurse, right? Because then you're not challenging the system, really. You're just learning how to, you know, work with the sciences. What up, homie?
What up?
Did you guys win?
No, we lost.
Oh, shit.
Bunch of crap.
That's bull.
Yeah, there was a fight that I thought that... I was actually rewatching it before. That's why I said hold on a second, because I was going to watch a fight that we had. And fucking ultimately, I'll keep
what? Do what?
Jeff and Cody, they ulted, I think, too late. Because I went in and I had like a format. I got the Karthus and Zeroth. I ulted them into my turret.
Yeah.
And then we had a Sejuani and a Fiddle, which the Fiddle was in position to ult where I ulted them at. And literally sat there for like 2 or 3 seconds with no ult, and the Sage wasn't like, not even in the same screen. And then like, when I died, they ulted and I was just like,
Yeah. That's always rough when you're not like synced up. Yeah, I mean, as far as ads, people talking in the chat, I think that it's fine. You just need to be critically engaged. Like, I know that a lot of, like, I don't want to pay $1,000 a year for YouTube, or I'd have to pay more than that if they didn't show ads, if ads didn't exist, and it was like a subscription service for something like YouTube. It would be an astronomical price to pay for it, and I don't want to pay that. And if I'm gonna see ads, I want to see relevant ads. I don't want to see ads for random bullshit I don't care about. So yeah, like, direct marketing is not necessarily like that bad. But it's when they start deciding like which, and it, like, as far as the algorithm goes too, like, I want to see relevant videos, right? I don't want to have to dig through 50 videos to find something that's useful. But when you get up near the top, there are certain things that go into why certain videos or links on Google show up there. And sometimes they're not always because it's the highest quality. And even what is the highest quality could be subjective, depending on your values. So I don't think the whole system is bad, but people need to understand how it works so they can operate in that system. Right, you need to understand when people are seeing stuff and it looks scary and it looks like it's the end of the world, they need to say, okay, let me go, like, check out what 3 different sources that are unrelated think about that. Right, if it's important, if it's an important thing for you. And just to understand, you know, just conceptually understand that that's their business model. They're trying to get clicks. People kind of understand that about super clickbaity stuff, right? They're like, okay. Like, I think people kind of understand about that. But there's a lot of stuff that's a lot more subtle than that, too. But so many people don't understand that. They don't have the right training for that. And so they're just always feeling like shit because they're scared and angry all the time. They've got, you know, depression or anxiety because they think they're not as good as anyone else. And the world's going to end any moment. And then they, you know, hear these narratives about how they should get triggered about everything. And it just, you know, in some cases, empowers, or I guess sort of accelerates their own sort of insecurities about themselves. And then, you know, a lot of that also gets them to externalize stuff. To say, oh, it's not, you know, my fault that I've got this problem or that problem, or that I'm a little anxious about this or whatever. It's other people, you know, triggering me and things like that. And I mean, there is some stuff out there that needs to be dialed back or needs to be moderated to some extent. But I think on the other end of it too, like people are saying, that a lot of people are just potentially overly sensitive. And I think a lot of that stems from poor mental health that's cultivated by these algorithms and all the negativity. So
I think I'm going against a Riven mid.
possibly. Oh yeah, I gotta turn down the sound. I'll do it in game. I don't think I can do it here. Or can I? No, I can't. Okay. Game volume. So what, you guys want it down to 79? Okay, well, I guess that's what it costs. What's up, Turbo? $112 a year for ad-free. Is that YouTube Red or something? Really? It's all AD except for Morgue? Oh, it's so annoying. 69's not Prime, though. I had to make it 79, because I know Ewa loves Primes. I think 79 is Prime. Yeah. It is. I think that's true too, Faded. 69 is a nice number. It is. I think we'll go with Relic Shield again. I've kind of been digging the shield. Like, you don't have the mana regen, but if you're not trading a ton early, YouTube Premium, yeah. If every single person did that, though... Well, here's the thing though. They're not showing you ads, but they're still probably gathering your data and selling it to other people.
Another dangerous situation.
So they're still making money, they're just not physically showing you those ads. But like, it will influence what you see, what you watch on YouTube will influence other stuff you watch on YouTube, what you find on Google, possibly the ads or recommendations you would get on something like Amazon.
They're scared of darkness. They're scared of magic.
Randuin's has insane value here.
Of where I'm from.
That could be true. Yeah, they do have a lot of melee. Yeah, maybe I should have gone double armor.
They've never seen moves like mine.
Yeah, I agree, Mal. I mean, I've had students get mad about innocuous stuff, too, in class. Like, get an A- and get triggered. I'm like, you can still get an A.
Is my
it's
cloak
just
right?
the first essay,
yes, it
Ronnie.
Is.
You know, like...
I was worried there for a second.
So, yeah, I mean, some people just get mad. I mean, I try to be aware that the vast majority of people are going to be more sensitive than me. I'm probably like a 1 or a 2 on the sensitive factor. Probably a 1, maybe a 0. I don't know. Like, I really don't hardly ever get offended by anything. It has to be like a direct insult to me where there's no way it could possibly be interpreted any other way. And even then, I still just let stuff go and just chalk it up to, well, that person has poor mental health. It probably has nothing to do with me. They're just having a bad day. Like, I always just think if someone's mean to me, because I virtually never do anything to provoke it, that is their problem, not my problem. I mean, I try to be understanding, and if I can adjust my behavior or what I'm saying to help people feel better, I try to do it.
I'm here! I'm gone. I am so gone.
I try to actively not get offended or mad at things that people do. 0. I would not necessarily say it's 0.
I was born. It's all right. It's okay.
I really, based on what I've seen, that's probably not the only thing going on in their life. That's what I'm saying. They probably have other stuff, but it could be just the tip of the iceberg, especially if they have, like, I mean, a lot of that's on the parents, right? Just, like, turbo overachieving parents. Oh, I forgot I don't have my knee. That could have been bad. I remember my wife, when she was in middle school or something, she would get in trouble for getting, like, B's on things sometimes. But yeah, I agree. It's not going to be like, I have a perfectly happy, content life, and I got an A-, and now I'm going to, you know, just end it all, right? I don't know if Morg flashed or what. What's up, Jenny? When she gets to higher grades, I don't really have any expectations. She doesn't even necessarily have to go to college. I think she probably will based on just her interactions and the fact that my wife and I will, you know, always emphasize education, and we both have advanced degrees. But honestly, if she wants to be a realtor or a plumber, and that's what she's into, I would support that.
It's magic.
I mean, I just want her to do whatever makes her happy. I mean, at the end of the day, that's the most important thing, in my mind. Just trying to figure out what makes you happy and do as much of that as you can. But yeah, I mean, I know a lot will potentially change. She seems to like art a whole lot.
Time to show it.
And my wife's side of the family, there are a lot of artists. I would not be shocked if she wanted to do something in art, graphic design, something like that. Yeah, I mean, especially at this age, yeah, having no expectations, pretty much. I mean, my expectation is that I hope, expectation's a weird word, I'll use the word hope. I hope she finds something that makes her happy.
Brilliant.
And that she's able to parlay that into a lifestyle that she's comfortable with. I mean, sometimes there's stuff that makes you happy and it's just not going to pay the bills, you know? And you got to do something else. But if there is a way...
Crap. I totally forgot why I'm here.
Yeah, that's interesting, Turbo. You know, I was honestly the same way when I was a kid. Like, when I was in high school, you know, my mom told me anything like a B or more was good. So my freshman year, I just got like all B's just about. And she had lower expectations than I did because she wanted to be accepting of whatever. Because she didn't do so hot in school a lot of the time. So she was just thrilled that I was like getting B's, showing up, you know. But I had to kind of set my own standards higher, and a lot of it was the friends I associated with. You know, I did have some friends that struggled in school, for sure, but I also had friends that were really high-performing honors kids. It's because I was lucky enough to just kind of naturally be a high-performing honor kid. And they're just like, hey man, why are you getting B's? Because I told them I got all B's. I thought it was cool, and they're like, well, we got all A's. Why? You could why do you have a B in physical science? Like, you could easily get an A in there. And I was like, you know what? You're right. So then, you know, sophomore year up, I tried my best and got A's in most things. There were some classes that were just straight up too hard, though. Like Calc 2, I got a D in there, the worst grade I've ever gotten, and I tried really, really hard. I just was not good at it. It was such a weird experience to me, because typically I've almost always been, like, pretty good in most academic subjects. But that was one where I just ran into a brick wall, and I was like, okay, this is what it feels like to be really far out of your element.
I don't need to.
Can we rotate them?
Yeah.
Good shit. Pro W right there.
Yeah. Well, I missed, but it did cut it off.
I know you missed, but I just had to say it. Just to say it.
Gotcha.
I was just trying to be funny, but it didn't seem like...
It's that humor online. I'm offended, damn it. It's ableist. He's making fun of me because I'm old and my reflexes aren't what they used to be. I'm so mad.
Oh my god, please.
I'm offended by how little attention I get.
A lot of people running brick walls. What's up? I'm weird. Hey, thanks for speaking up. Yeah, I was like, I almost got an A in Calc 1, and then I failed the final and got a B in the class, and then Calc 2 was just like, I couldn't do it. Because I realized, at its core, I don't understand what I'm talking about. And I was just kind of memorizing stuff like a puzzle, but there were too many puzzle pieces at that point. I remember Calc 2, for one of the major exams, there were like 55, you know, new formulas I had to know, and like when to apply them. And it starts to kind of get creative at that point. Like, there are multiple ways you can approach problems, and it's hard to do that if you don't understand what you're doing on a fundamental level.
I do not wish
Like, with English and just any humanities stuff, like, I can kind of see it, right? I'm like, okay, this is where this story's going. This is the theme. This is how it fits in with other stories. This is how it fits in with the culture at the time. This is how these poetics or this language is operating. I don't know. It just kind of like clicked with me a lot better. But like, and I had a friend that was the same thing in math, but he didn't understand English. Like, he still did well in the classes because he's just a really smart guy. But he was like, I don't know why the hell this play is important for Shakespeare, you know, that type of thing.
There's wildness.
But
in
he
the
could
leaves and
solve
flowers.
this,
It's just
you
a
know,
fury human
50-step
beings.
calculus problem 5 different ways, right? He's like, well, you could do it this way, or you could, you know, go around and do it this way or this way. And just the way that math was taught, I'm just really kind of narrative driven. And I think a lot of math is taught in terms of like memorization, like memorize these formulas, do this and that. But if I had been taught like, okay, this is how algebra was formed initially, these were the problems, you know, these ancient mathematicians were facing, and this is why they developed it in this way, and this is how it's building on what was done before, and then explain calculus that way, like with the story behind it, with the narrative, with specific people in a specific cultural context, I would have done a lot better. But at the same time, the way that like education is structured these days, it feels like they just don't have time for that, because they're trying to cover so much material. So I kind of get it, just the way that everything's structured. It's just not practical to do that. But I feel like if there was a way to teach me that way, like if I watched some really good YouTube instructors or something,
Your team has destroyed a turret.
or if it was like just like one-on-one tutoring or something, I think I probably could have done it a lot better. Oh, it is. Sorry, I'm catching up in the chat. Calc 2 is the highest fail rate. That's interesting, because I definitely almost failed it. Yeah, that's tough too. Trying to explain something. That's why sometimes people will say stuff like, oh, those who can't do, teach, right? So people who are bad at something, just teach. It's like the teaching itself is a skill. Not everybody is great at explaining complex concepts, and that's fine. It's the same, I always compare it to sports and coaching, right? A lot of times the best coaches in sports, many of them were players at some point, but a lot of times they weren't the best players. Like, teaching in and of itself is a challenging skill that takes a lot of practice. Because there are so many people that are experts in a field or that are really good at something, but they have a hard time breaking it down and explaining it to people at a different level. So like having the expertise is step one, right? But you gotta also, you know, there's also ways to improve from an educational standpoint. Like, I'm not the greatest scholar in the world at persuasive writing and rhetoric, right? But I think I'm still like a pretty good teacher at it because I try so hard to figure out ways to connect it with students. And it's also just managing the human interactions. It's not just the material. It's so much of it is motivation. How do you get people to care? How do you get them to be interested in something that they may not naturally be very good at, right? That they have to work at a little bit. How do you convince them that it has value? That's a huge struggle with me, is because it's something that I've definitely had to learn, and that I think a lot of educators struggle with, the Teach English 101, 102 type of stuff, is that the population that you're working with are non-English majors, and many of them don't necessarily like English, because it's been taught to them in a way that they don't necessarily see the immediate value in. They think, okay, I'm going to be an engineer, I'm going to be a doctor, or whatever, so why do I need to care about this Shakespeare poem, right? Because that's what they think when they think English. They're like, obscure authors, and like taking quizzes on like random ass passages and just shit that's like not going to be practical for them. I think that's a lot of people's experience with English in like high school.
Because I'm free.
So I have to like convince them, hey, I'm going to teach you stuff that's actually practical. Now, I do think it's useful to understand culture. I do think it's useful to read stuff like Jane Austen, but you have to be like,
Look good.
you have to want to do it. I think it's much more specialized. I think that persuasive writing and effective communication is good in any field. Jane Austen is much more specific, and I do think reading good literature can help you become a better critical thinker, you know, just maybe a better person in many ways. Like, I know it has me, even though I never finished with the, you know, piece of paper for my PhD, just being in the classes, doing the research, writing the essays, reading great works of literature, I think has really helped me.
Ally has been slain.
Magic is supposed to be skill. Love is supposed
But that may
to
not be
hurt.
for everybody, and you don't have to have a degree for that. Like, you can always just
Ally
read,
has been slain.
you know. But I think the experience was useful. Yeah, exactly.
I don't do say.
On Greek lit. Yeah. No, I totally feel you. Just like, I understand the value in math. The thing is, I actually liked math. I still do like math. Even though I haven't done it in a long time. It's not like I didn't like it or that I didn't try. I really did. Like, it was like 3 hours a night of the homework trying to solve the problems. I was, you know, I'd have these study parties with my friends
Your team has
where we do the
destroyed a
homework.
turret.
One guy's an engineer now, the other guy's a doctor. And I used to have them help me figure out how to solve these problems, study for tests, and then we'd play some video games or basketball, you know. We'd study for an hour or something, maybe 2 hours, and then go out and do something fun.
It don't take a lot of words to tell it.
Yeah, I think it really helps to have a very good guide on literature too. Like, you can read it yourself, but
An enemy has
I really
been
didn't care
slain.
about 19th century lit. Like, I wanted to be a creative writer, like a fiction writer, initially when I was an undergrad. My undergrad was in creative writing, philosophy, and religious studies. I had a triple major. But I never really read any Victorian literature. And I didn't really, like, care. I'd read some, but not a lot. But then I switched over to lit, and then I wanted to do 20th century. But then I just kind of figured out, you know, I really like this Victorian literature. Because a big part of it for me was, first of all, the teacher was awesome.
Dance.
What do I get here? I mean, Randuin's does have some value. They're not gonna have that much crit,
An
though.
ally has been slain.
I mean, maybe it is a
An
Frozen
enemy
Heart.
has been slain.
Is he gonna get Frozen Heart, though? I guess I could get Frozen Heart. We'll see.
When I get sad,
But it's just that they dreamed big. Like, it was so interdisciplinary at the time. They had these huge, sprawling stories with, you know, very enveloping characters that are, like, super fleshed out. And just to kind of, they're just asking these big questions about life. And it feels like
I am born of magic.
it was before a lot of the hyper-specialization that you see in, like, contemporary literature, and especially the scholarship is way more fun to read. Reading something like,
They will remember my name.
like The Evolution of Human Species or something like that by Darwin is just infinitely more interesting to me than, like, reading a contemporary biology textbook. Is it as accurate? No. Not by our current standards, but it's the story they're telling. It's just like that excitement and that process of discovery. I just find it really compelling. But I understand that that's not everyone's cup of tea. But I just like the literature that's just bold and just paints
Magic isn't supposed to be safe.
such a tapestry of the human condition.
Has been slain.
It's just wonderful.
What?
And then and it was also kind of a time with peace. Like, a lot of it is, it's not necessarily optimistic, but it's not like obsessed with war and like the negativity of the human condition. It feels like a lot of the 20th century, not all of it, but a lot of it is just like super, or like this feels negative. We're just kind of talking about that to some extent. Like, once you start getting into modernism, it starts getting really hard to understand for me. Like, I can understand the value in it, but... Oh my god, can you jump?
Oh, sorry.
It's all good. Yeah, I mean, they do write longer sentences, but to me, I would rather read an 800-page novel that just has so much depth of character than a 300-page novel that's like super like modernist, abstract kind of stuff, like Joyce. I don't know, there's a time and a place, but I just like the accessibility of it.
I need my love to hurt. I need the world to
Dracula
scare me.
slaps.
I don't apologize for it. I feel good.
Yeah, a lot of it does depend on the professor. Like, I really hated chemistry for a long time, even though I only had one class in high school, because the teacher was horrible. Absolutely horrible. Not in the fact they couldn't teach, but that she was, like, specifically hostile to me because I asked questions. And it just turned me off from the whole subject. I mean, I like where I am. I like where I ended up. I have no qualms with that. But, you know, if I had... And I did kind of, at the time, I was thinking of wanting to do something scientific.
It's just a dance.
But if I had wanted to be a doctor or go into something, right? Like, that could have just totally ruined it for me. And most teachers were, like, pretty reasonable. She was just like, I think she just hated men, man. Also, like, very hostile.
I can't wait to see what I'm gonna do.
But yeah, teachers make a huge difference in, like, motivation. And motivation is one of the biggest things, I think, with students.
Fun.
And you gotta get them motivated. If they're motivated, they care.
Let's go, Caitlin. Thank you.
Nice. Can we bear him?
Don't leave
Main's
nothing.
dead, so...
Bring it all.
Take a look at it.
Has been destroyed.
Oh shit, they got aborted though. Damn it. The fucking angle on this stupid shit. So annoying.
Double kill. An enemy has been slain.
Boys, they got me. This is so risky.
We got a TP coming in though. Wait, Gucci. Hey, thanks. I'm weird. I appreciate it, man. And thanks for helping all the students out there too, from one educator to another.
All right.
I'm glad you can teach them the math, because I certainly can't.
Big AF.
Isaiah says someone has to die, they die.
Oh yes. Trying to think. Oh my.
Oh my. I just need a death cap now.
Oh goodness.
An ally has been slain.
I think math and science
Try and test me?
in general are... Oh, there aren't as many good educators. I mean, maybe that's not fair, but I hear it all the time from students. And I don't necessarily... Sorry, what'd you say? The word cue?
Yeah, I was like, I didn't even see that.
Yeah, she blacked out one word. I think a big part of it is so many educators are...
What humans call magic?
So in the sciences are much more focused on the research itself, which doesn't necessarily involve effective communication. Like when you're teaching literature and stuff, like you're reading about literature, you're reading about themes in the humanities and human emotion and motivation when you're dealing with characters and themes and stuff. So it's just a little bit like more aligned with like your material itself aligns a little bit more with the teaching, like what it takes to be a good educator. I think that's part of it.
That's their problem.
And also the sciences are typically a lot more thought to be more practical. So a lot of times, at least at the college level, they will bring in people that are really good in the lab, that can do great research. And if they can teach, that's like a bonus, but that's not like
Has been slain.
the main reason why a lot of people are there, I don't think.
I'm at the back.
Because I hear the chemistry is just like, at our school, it's just so bad. Like, students complain about it constantly. And, like, the average in most of those classes is like a 60. It's like almost failing. I remember even my Biology 101, when I was a freshman, like, the average, it was like a C average. Now, a lot of that was because people just didn't show up because they stuffed like 625 students in an auditorium, and we watched a huge lecture at like 9 in the morning. It did split up into labs once a week that had like 25 students each, I think. But I think a lot of it is people, also parents, try to push kids into science stuff because that's where the good paying jobs are. Even students who aren't necessarily like science or are motivated or whatever.
You seen that forest over there?
Yeah, that sounds rough. Also, I think it's just a lot harder in general for people to connect with numbers because they're so relatively abstract versus, you know, someone explaining their grief when a character dies or something in a novel, right? Because a lot of people have experienced grief. So it just feels, in my mind, like it's just naturally a little more relatable, at least at like an entry level. Yeah, sure, Black Mountain. That might be part of it too. I'm just kind of theorizing why it seems so much more difficult for students to succeed in science and math. Again, I just think that it's the way that it's pushed as well, without a narrative, as this relative abstraction. What?
Yeah, I do damage, bro.
You and
Bad.
Caitlin just like evaporated.
Yeah.
But a lot of that's structural from the administrators. Like I said, I get it. Teachers, like, they don't have time to teach it, like, with a narrative element to it.
Your team has destroyed
Back up.
an inhibitor.
If it don't get out of control,
Because of all the standardized tests and just how fast you have to teach the material. I think they tried to add a narrative element with, like, Common Core, but it just wasn't executed very well, and a lot of people really hated it. I remember there was some math problem that got memed on all the time about, like, division, long division or something, and you had to draw some kind of number line, and you were supposed to explain it to somebody who didn't understand it, like explain your work. And everyone's like, the work is in the numbers, you just do this long division, who gives a shit about number lines or explaining it to people? It's like, well, yes, but that's really, like, kind of more of an English problem than a math problem, just in really broad stereotypes, right? Because you're trying to explain it to somebody who doesn't know it.
this looks like another
But yeah, it's just like,
situation.
it's right over a lot of parents' heads, and they are just, like, losing their shit about a lot of... Now, I didn't experience a ton of Common Core, but I think they were trying to push more critical thinking, critical engagement, especially with math and stuff like that. Volumes are fun.
They're scared of darkness. They're scared of magic.
So I don't know. It's not that some people haven't tried. It's just like, you know, the world may not be ready for it, right? To some extent too.
Oh, fuck, yeah. Camille should die, hopefully.
They've never seen moves like that.
Okay, Uder's not taking health, so I'm assuming he's winning that.
But yeah, I mean, a huge part of the problem too is just like so many parents devalue humanity because they think it's going to convince little Jenny to like dye her hair purple and all of a sudden hate all of her parents' values if she learns how to think critically about social media or something, right? Like everyone's just so scared that
I will make them dance.
you know their sons and daughters are going to be like transformed into some kind of monster that's going to hate them and everything they stand for. Is it rude to call someone ugly when they are? Yes. We've talked about this a million times on stream. Just, you don't have to say everything you think. There is the option to say nothing. And sometimes it doesn't matter what you believe as much as what you're doing with that, you know, with that belief.
That ain't crazy.
Because being rude is not about being right or wrong. Like, just because you are... And that you can't even really be right or wrong about most things, especially that, because it's your opinion, right? Like saying someone just is ugly, you think they're ugly.
I am so gone.
There might be other people out there that, you know, think they're attractive. But even if they were, even if there was something like objective beauty...
Oh, go. Well, Bane just cleared the enemy. I had a
Speaking
huge
his hand,
ult.
speaking his hand.
For humans,
You have
magic is
slain
like
an
fire.
enemy.
For
Yeah,
us,
but you don't have to be that. You don't have to be blunt and honest. Again, it's not necessarily honesty. It's your interpretation of events. And you don't have to say that. There might be some people who like that, who are soliciting that. You know, if your girlfriend says, do I look fat in this dress? Depending on the girlfriend, maybe you can say yes. But I would say 90% of the time, you should probably say no. Regardless. Because it's not about the actual weight. It's about her, you know, potentially feeling good and feeling confident with what she's doing. But I mean, if this, you know, if there is something that's just like super, you think is going to be a problem, right? If she thinks something looks good and you're going to an event where she's going to be heavily judged by other people, maybe, depending on the girl, maybe you could phrase it in such a way as like, you know what, I really like that other lavender dress that you have. I think that would work really well with this decor or something. Right, but I think the vast majority of the time, you should just try to be positive. You know, that old saying, if you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything at all, is a good guideline. It's not always true. And again, you have to know the person. Some people might want some blunt honesty about some things. But it depends on the person, and you have to have a really high ethos with that person, right? You have to have a high reputation. They have to trust you for like a tough love type of approach to work. You have to think about why you're saying that too. Like, what is the purpose of telling somebody that? Right? Again, if it's like one of your buddies or something, this really close friend you've had for a while, you both have thick skin, you both like to keep it real or whatever, and, you know, he wants to go out on this first date in like a camo hat and some overalls to like a 5-star restaurant with this girl, and you're just like, hey man, that's not happening. That's an ugly ass outfit. You need to change that shit. Right? Like, you can say that with certain people. And some people do respond to a tough love. Right? If you're playing football or something, and, you know, someone runs you over on the field, and your coach says, get up, don't let that shit happen again, plant your feet, you know, or do this or do that, right? Then that type of stuff might work, right? You may not have to go over and say, oh, are you okay? You know, and coddle them, right? If it's like a football environment with a football coach, or if it's like military or something, you're doing some kind of military training. Like, there are certain places where tough love is appropriate, but it's usually only going to be received well if it's from typically an authority figure or someone who's really close to you that you respect and admire.
What?
I know, it blows Jason away, man. He's like, dude, I love it when people just randomly insult me on the street. I feed on that. I mean, there are some people at high levels of competition that do step their game up if they feel like they've been slighted. And they might actually like that to some extent. I don't know if they like it, but they perform better, right? Michael Jordan, Tom Brady, Kobe Bryant, right? But that's not normal. That's not most people. That's very hyper-competitive people. And I think we're conflating they like it or that's a good way to communicate with them versus they are really pissed off and they're going to get revenge against you. I don't think that's necessarily the same thing.
It's just business.
Yeah, you can think that. You can think, holy shit, this guy's ugly if you want to, but you don't have to say it, and you probably shouldn't if you don't know the person.
So he runs Conquer on him, okay.
I just don't think there's any reason to bring up something negative. Because life's hard enough for most people, right? And it's not like he's not going to know that. Right? Again, if it's a friend and they're doing something that is going to get bad results and whatever it is, and they're not aware of it, then there might be a way that you could broach that in a graceful way, like the camo hat and overalls to a nice restaurant. You might say, hey, why don't you try out that awesome suit that I've seen you wore over to, you know, Aunt Marie's wedding or something, right? Like, there are other ways to say it without just saying, hey, you're ugly. Or just like, if it is somebody you know that's a friend or whatever and they're a little overweight, just say, hey man, I could really use a jogging buddy. Like, you want to go jogging with me? Or hey, like, let's go to the gym, man. I've been needing some motivation lately. I could really use your company. Something like that. Like, there are other ways to bring it up. If it's a stranger, I just would never say anything, ever, that's going to be negative. Unless it's like a specific forum for that. Right? No, it's not how you motivate people. No, it's not. Again, for some people, it might motivate them, but you have to have a good reputation with them. And that has to be the way they get motivated. With most people, that is not how they get motivated. Is by negativity. Especially from someone random that they don't know. No, we don't need bullying back. There's way too much bullying. Trust me. People who are overweight and not attractive, they are very well aware of that typically. I think telling them that is not it's not adding anything to their motivation by itself. They might. I'm sure they probably do.
I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, you don't have to always tell people what you're thinking. I think that's the moral of the story. I think you'll find that your life will probably be happier and more successful if you know, figure out when to talk and when not to talk.
Welcome to Summoner's Rift.
I don't do safe. Let's see what these animals can do.
30 seconds until minions spawn.
Oh.
Okay, against Pike. Okay, they got a pretty good mix of damage. With a Moo, I guess it's just Shurelya's. Our damage is kind of low.
I have got to stop
Minions
talking.
have spawned.
Damn it, Zaya, where are you?
Hand me a wrench. It's fine. He's in here all the time. I mean, he's asking. There are people who think that. So he's not insulting anyone specifically. He's just asking. I think it's fine. Like, you can't learn unless you ask questions. So I don't mind discussing it. So I think that, you know, again, I don't think he's alone.
Fence us away and cover it in
And
refuse.
sort of approaching life that way. But again, like most people that are overweight or have, you know, other features may not be historically, at least this day and age, considered optimal in terms of beauty, right? They usually know those things, right? Like, it's not a secret. Unless it's like an outfit or, you know, something else that they could control. But there's always a better way to say it. Just focus on something positive, you know? I think that's the best way to do it, right? You don't like the dress your girlfriend wants to wear out to some formal event. Instead of saying that dress sucks, you look fat in that dress, suggest the one that you think is good. You respect people that are overweight, do something about it. Yes. I mean, that's good. But, like, again, it is challenging for a lot of people to catch up. Like, calories are, it's like 3,500 calories. It's oversimplified, but it's like 3,500 calories per pound of fat, right? So that's about the equivalent of walking 35 miles to get rid of 1 pound. And someone who's visibly, like, pretty overweight, you're probably talking at least 20 pounds or something. So just in raw numbers, what is that, 80 miles of walking? Something like that, the equivalent. So it takes some time and it takes motivation, and a lot of it comes from being stressed, like poor mental health to begin with, being bullied. People eat when they're stressed. A lot of those people that get to that point, they know it's bad, they're not happy about it, but that's just how it is, right? Maybe they're really shy, maybe they've been bullied or whatever. So it's not really, it's going to be very difficult for them to be motivated to do stuff without being in a better mental space. And there's some of that with, you know, there are some apps, there are more communities, you know, there are ways that people are trying to help people be motivated and be excited about, you know, dieting. We gotta back up, man. They're gonna... He's gonna gank us here in a second. He's probably like doing golems or something right now.
I'm gonna live forever.
So yeah, I mean, it's not
Humans think that
I can
to believe
bully.
in
Yeah, I mean,
something
there's part of that.
serious about it.
I agree, Turbo,
That's their
but
problem.
I don't think it's all just one social or political group or whatever, right? Like,
An ally has been slain.
I
think it's just negativity across the spectrum, and a lot of it stems from mental health.
An enemy has been slain.
So again, I mean, if you want to help them out, if you want them to be motivated, say, you know, you have to build up a rapport with them.
If it don't get out of control,
And just say, hey,
it
like,
ain't
no,
hard.
what are we doing? This is a huge wave.
I will walk in. I will dance.
I mean, we got it, but Pike also flashed, but we lost a lot of minions for that. But yeah, so it's not, I mean, it sounds easy, right? To just say, just eat well
Ladies and gentlemen, I am
and
here
exercise.
to entertain.
But
you too.
it is challenging for a lot of people to do that. Once you get so far behind, right? If you're just like 5 pounds heavier than you want, like, alright, a couple of adjustments, you can do it. But when you're facing such overwhelming numbers, right? When you're like, oh my god, I have to lose 50 pounds. That's what so many people fixate on. And they're like, it's just not worth it. I don't want to just eat celery and drink water for like 2 years to get rid of this 50 pounds. I don't want to have to go run 3 miles a day. And it's hard to do cardio when you're overweight because all your joints are garbage, right? And you're going to be so tired so fast. You know, it can just be very demoralizing. You try to go run and you're out of breath in like 15 seconds, right? So, it's just a very challenging process that requires cultivation of sort of a good mentality too. It all starts with a good mentality. You have to have positivity. You have to have, you know, a lot of motivation and a guide, really, to help you, I think, for most people. Yeah, of course, but that doesn't mean everybody can do it. One thing you have to remember, there are exceptional people, right, that are not normal. There are people that have lost 300 pounds and been highly motivated, and they're like speakers now, right? Like you said, there can be an 80-year-old guy in the gym that's like fit as hell. I've seen that. That doesn't mean everybody can do that. It's the same thing with, like, there are cryptocurrency traders that are millionaires, right? There are tech entrepreneurs that are millionaires. That doesn't mean everybody can just do that instantly. There are people who can, you know, run a marathon in under 3 hours. Doesn't mean everyone can do that instantly. You know what I'm saying? Like, there are exceptional people, but the exception's not always the rule. Nice.
This looks like another dangerous situation. Thankfully, I can.
Oh, I forgot you were the Amumu. I was like, where the hell's his ear?
Yeah, I know. It's the Scion mid. That's what I'm doing.
Bad. I could have just told you we had a huge wave then. We went for that dive. Like zoned out chat.
It's wild. I'm just here for the party.
Oh, yeah, it's all good.
I may have inadvertently come off as a little rude there.
No.
Okay.
No. I'm none taken at all. Even if you were rude.
Underestimate my charm.
I
How is
wouldn't.
that even possible?
An ally has
But yeah,
been
that was why I
slain.
didn't follow up immediately with that gank, just because we had a huge ass wave. But we did get 2 flashes, so that was worth it in the end.
I might need your help over here on red if you guys can rotate.
Okay.
Because this Gragas is coming.
Alright, we gotta roll out.
Maybe not. I don't. Oh, yep, here he is.
So yeah, I mean, I'm on board with that. I do wish, you know, I think it'd be great for our society if more people could be motivated and could,
Take a lot of work.
you know, diet better. But the reality is, a lot of people just don't have the background for that.
Double kill.
I'm gonna take all they got.
And it's not like, it's somewhat unreasonable to expect everybody to have the same level of motivation and training as elite people, because most people just are not elite. I remember when I was 16 or 17, I think you said you were 17, I was a similar way, like, maybe not exactly the same, but like, I had similar thoughts where it's like, okay, well, I'm able to do this, why can't other people do it, right? Or why is that not the standard for everybody? But just as you live more, as you have more experiences and things like that, you'll just figure out that people are just very different. And you'd be humbled too, you'd be like, wow, that person is like, yeah, they can't like maybe interpret this piece of literature like me, or maybe they've never heard of Descartes or something like that, but they can beat the hell out of me in fixing a car, or they can beat the hell out of me in weightlifting, or whatever it is. Like, people are really good at a lot of different things. Like, everybody's good at something. And it's just trying to sort of cultivate that like level of humility and trying to learn
They're gonna
from other
try and
people as
test
much as you can.
me.
Just appreciate what they can do.
Oh no!
An ally has been slain.
Will help out a lot.
An ally has been slain.
And at the end of the day, too, like, you kind of see this as well, where I really need to remember the name of that syndrome. I never can remember it, or that logical fallacy.
Shut down.
Is it Kruger, Dunning-Kruger, where people who are sort of intermediary at something, or amateur at something, think they're a lot better than they actually are? Yeah, Dunning-Kruger. That's where it comes into, I think, a lot of times. So I used to think I was a lot better than I actually am at a lot of stuff when I was younger, until I got exposed to people that were, like, way better than me. And also when I just learned more about it. Like, I used to think I was like, man, I'm a really good fiction writer. I can definitely get published. There's all this other garbage. These other garbage fiction writers getting shit published out there. I can write stuff way better than that. It's like, well, I didn't know, like, exactly what good writing was, because I just hadn't read enough. And I didn't have enough experience doing writing. I wasn't thinking about audience at all. I was like, well, I like this book. I like this story that I just wrote. If other people don't like it, they're just dumb, right? But it's like, there's such a thing as an audience, and it matters. And you like, if you're gonna write a fantasy novel, for example, you need to be very familiar with what other fantasy novels are out there, right? What's selling really well? What else has been done in that space? How can you innovate it? Because ultimately, if you don't understand a lot of that stuff, you're not gonna be able to innovate. So you have to be asking questions and constantly try to learn if you want to be a professional, if you want to be really good at anything. You know, because it's almost the equivalent. Like, I was like basically creating fire, right, from like sticks and stones and saying, oh man, this is awesome. It's like, dude, people did that thousands of years ago. I just didn't know because I hadn't read a lot of that other stuff. I hadn't studied it enough. So I thought I was innovating, but I really wasn't, because I didn't understand what true innovation was.
Taking so long to get back to the action.
So it's just kind of, you know, having that level of humility and just really coming to terms with the fact that oftentimes we really don't know as much as we think we do about those things.
Yeah. Didn't get a chance to ult.
You have slain an enemy.
They're scared of darkness. They're scared of magic. They are scared. Where
Rampage.
Just can't do anything about it. I don't know, ASF.
Your
Magic.
team has destroyed.
It depends on what you're trying to be motivated by. Like, to some extent, yes, people are engaged. I don't know, like, motivated is kind of a tricky word with the way you're thinking about
you
it.
weren't a little
But
frightened.
I think that's a
not
good
too
way to
right.
get people engaged, right? Like, we see that with the clicking that I was talking about before with algorithms.
Magic
Is that people are much faster to click on things that piss them off or scare them, right? And there is some, to some extent, yes. Like, if you apply that to diets, right? If people are
now
motivated, right? Like, if people if people are scared about,
kill the mortals.
you know, their weight, like that they're going to get diabetes or something like that.
Okay,
But you
I'm
have to
not
have
gonna
the ethos to make that work. You have to have the reputation. Like someone random on the street saying, hey man, you're ugly as hell, is not gonna motivate someone to want to change. It's just gonna make them like feel bad. Right? Because just think about it. If negativity was a way to get people to be happier and to improve themselves, why do we have so many like obese people in the country who are just like constantly in poor mental health, constantly have a negative perception of themselves and other people, that are constantly shamed? Why aren't they losing weight? I mean, I agree with that too, right? If you're comfortable, if you're happy with your life, you're not going to want to change. So I agree with that. Like, you have to want to change. And for you to want to change, typically it means you're not satisfied with something. But I think wanting to do something and actually doing it are two different things.
Name one genius.
To be motivated to actually go do it, I think that you need... Usually it's a kind of positivity. You have to be given a path. You have to have someone that's going to break it down and give you achievable goals. Say, hey man, don't think about it as lose 60 pounds next week, right? Think about it as, let's see if we can lose 3 pounds a week. You don't have to get rid of all your good food, right? Just get rid of this and this, or substitute your sodas, substitute 2 sodas a day for water. Right? So it comes from a place of like negotiation and positivity, I feel like. Just outright saying something like, hey man, you're fat or you're ugly, I don't think that's motivating, because I don't think that's new information. But it's not new information. It's not a feels good. I mean, there's something to be said for that, right? If people were just like constantly saying it's okay, you know, to be overweight or whatever, then yes, I agree, that's gonna like not be as conducive to people wanting to lose weight. So there is some truth in that, right? You have to be a little uncomfortable.
Damn, I took the wrong one.
But, you know, to actually be motivated to want to do it, you have to have a clear and positive path for success. Unless you have an extremely high locus of control, which is not most people. Again, that's like a very high level of critical thinking.
Your team has destroyed a
Turn on,
turret.
drop out. Okay, Rakan. Get them watching you. Then burn them up.
So yeah, I mean, there is complacency, right? If someone is... I understand kind of what you're saying there, right? Where if someone's like, I feel perfectly fine with who I am and my body, and I'm 350 pounds. You're right. Like, obviously, they're not going to be as motivated to lose weight, right? But I would still say the vast majority of people, even if they say they're fine with that, or even if there are some, you know, movements in society that are more fat positive, or whatever the proper term is for it, right? That are more accepting of larger body types. I still don't think that means a lot of people are going to be feeling so good that they don't want to change. There's some people that are like that, but I also think it's not entirely necessary. I don't know. That's a difficult question, because it does involve other people. It does stress the healthcare system, and ultimately it is, you know, bad for their health. It's not just an aesthetic thing. But I think if they just want to be okay with how they are, I think that's their choice too, to some extent. I don't think they need to necessarily be bullied in public about stuff. So even if, like, in some world it would be necessary for the motivation to have that kind of negativity, I don't think that it's necessary to do it out in public unprompted. You know what I mean? Holy shit, I'm gonna burn out. Run, baby, run. I'm so low, I can't do it anymore.
Shut down.
So again, that all circles back to, even if you're right, if it's negative, it doesn't mean you have to say it or do it in public.
For us, it is for us.
Run, run, run!
Yeah. I mean, again, there might be some people, you guys might be, you know, the people that are advocating for this kind of tough love approach, you guys might be motivated by that. And that's fine, if you are. Right? If someone comes up to you and, you know, it's just like, hey, you know what? You're an idiot, and you look like trash and all this stuff. If you're like, hey, man, thanks so much. I'm going to go home and I'm going to make sure I lose 5 pounds for next week or something, right? Or I'm going to go home and I'm going to read a book. I'm going to be smarter. This guy just called me an idiot. I'm going to go learn something today, right? Like, maybe there are people who are like that. Again, in a competitive setting, you do see that among really high-level athletes. But usually it's out of a place of revenge, I would argue. Rather than a place of like, oh my god. Wow. Okay, that was a great escape. So there are examples of people who are like that. I just don't think that's most people.
Moves like
Yes, some people are perhaps a little too complacent about some things. It doesn't necessarily just have to be weight. Could be anything. Could be learning about stuff too. So I don't think you're totally like wrong about stuff. I just think it's all in like the approach, and it just depends on the person and your rapport with that person. What's your relationship with this person, right? Again, if you have a good relationship with them, and that's how they roll, they tell you to be brutally honest. That's what they like. Holy shit, what the fuck? That was my bad, I got baited by the pike. Thought I could get him, but I was tricked. What do we... God, they have so much CC though, too. Guess I'm just getting Knight's Vow.
An enemy
So
has
yes,
been slain.
I agree with, in theory, at least partially, some of the things that you're arguing, right? Like I see where you're coming from, and I think that can work with certain people in certain situations. I just think that most people, again, sort of my major operating thesis here is that most people have pretty poor mental health because of negativity online primarily, and or what I would call poor parenting skills. So I think a lot of people have a really negative perception of themselves, and I think that that is detrimental to a lot of people. And I think that underlies a lot of problems in our society. Everything from weight to sensitivity to, you know, lack of career motivation to problems in relationships. All of it, I think, stems from hyper-negativity in online settings and people not having the critical tools to deal with that. So I think anything that can be more positive, because you can be motivational and positive, right? Again, there are more positive ways to say a lot of the things that, a lot of the examples we've said, right? If we don't like somebody's outfit, you don't have to say, hey, you look bad in that dress. You can say, hey, I really think this other dress brings out your eyes really well, right?
Get it started.
But that's assuming you already have a relationship. Like, you wouldn't go up to a random woman on the street, or you shouldn't, and say something like that. Like, you know what, that dress is okay, but I think you would look perfect in a lavender dress, right? To someone that you don't know. I mean, I don't think positivity is weakness. I think positivity is power. I mean, I think there's a difference in positivity and coddling. It doesn't have to be like trophy generation stuff, like everybody gets a trophy. That's not the same thing.
Should we fight them if I turn ult?
It's 1-3-1, so we need to be careful. We might be outnumbered. We can maybe get Gragas
UP's right here.
Gragas is going to delete the misfortune.
It's alright. It's okay.
So I think there are certain levels to it. Again, I disagree with trophy generation. I think people need to know what it's like to have challenges, to have obstacles. But I think there need to be time and a place. And I just think talking to random strangers on the street is not the time or the place for unsolicited criticisms.
When you open your eyes, you see everything is limitless. Crap. I totally forgot my eye.
Because at the end of the day, it's all about results, right? If you're trying to be like
It's a
results oriented.
revolution. And it's
I tell you personally, as an educator, positivity is like way more powerful than negativity, at least in my experience, right?
they will see my dance.
If I tell people, hey, this essay is shit, or something like that, they're not going to have a good response. They're going to be like, that guy's a douchebag, I'm not going to listen to it. Even if, like, somehow objectively I could say, well, it is shit, they don't use enough evidence, you know, their thesis is flimsy or whatever, it's going to kill their motivation. Again, there are some students that might be motivated by that, but there's a better way to do it, right? And it's just more specific a lot of times too. Just saying, hey, I really like what you were saying in paragraph 3. I really like what was going on in paragraph 3, but I think you could definitely benefit from a little bit more evidence there. They're like, oh, this is a really cool point you made on page 2, paragraph 2, but you only spent 1 sentence on it, you know? I think it'd be really beneficial if you just elaborated on that, you know, you spend another couple of sentences on that point. It's the same thing, right? Practically, I'm saying, you know, this essay has flaws, but in one sense, I'm
Killing spree.
demotivating them, a lot of students, by sort of a preponderance of negativity, and in another one, they're going to be much more likely because I'm giving them very specific positive advice about what they could do to improve. Saying, I like this aspect, do more of this, rather than just this sucks. Even if it's specific negative stuff, do this less. That's not going to give them a lot of guidelines on how to positively, you know, contribute to the essay. It's just going to be, okay, that's bad, I need to not do that. I don't know. I mean, there is, like, to some extent, you can go down the negativity route. You can say this is bad because of these reasons, there's this precedent, or here are some examples. But in my mind, a lot of it's motivation, and a lot of people are motivated by productive positivity. I think that's maybe a key word that we haven't really used here, is that productive positivity. Because I agree, and I tell students this in workshops, you don't ever just want to say, this is a great essay, good job. Right? Gold star. Because that's not going to help them improve. So it's got to be productive positivity in that type of setting. But again, I have that relationship with them. Right? Like, they are my students, they are expecting me to give them advice on things. Right? Versus random stranger on the street, they're not expecting that.
Now we're gonna have to, like, push them if we can or something.
Yeah. I mean, Fiora's huge. They cannot match her split, so... I think there would be very, very few people that would have a negative response to productive positivity. There might be some, but there are many more people that are going to have a negative response to unproductive negativity for sure, but even productive negativity I think is going to be... I got stuffed so hard. Oh yeah, we just went off that. Nice.
What do you know about that 0-8, 12 blue move, bruh?
Hard carry.
Run it down. Give me my only kill. No. Oh my god, I mean, 1 kill this whole game, Rit.
So yeah, I agree. It could work with some people, but even with those same people that are like tough love people, I still think that productive positivity is the way to go.
Victory!
Learning new shit can be done by less severe methods. What do you mean by severe methods? Like being positive? Again, I'm not talking about everybody gets a trophy, let's all hold hands, kumbaya, everybody's perfect, nobody change anything, right? Like, I agree that can be bad too, and that's not motivational. Like, that can help people feel good, but it's not going to help them accomplish something in a professional or like a setting of improvement, right? It can be good to do that sometimes if someone's just having a bad day or they just need to pick me up. Like, I think that unproductive good vibes can be good, but in a lot of like, again, kind of professional settings, you want to try to be productive too in order to do something. So I agree that the kumbaya stuff in education, sports, a job environment, you know, some place where there's going to be something competitive, where they're aspiring to improve, then I agree. That could be, you know, not the best as well. So I think the middle ground is you want to be productive, you want to point out specific things people can improve on, but I think doing it from a space of goodwill, right? To let them know, hey, I'm looking out, I want you to improve. I'm looking out for the best in you, right? Will help improve your ethos, your reputation with that person, and they'll be more motivated to want to listen to you, potentially, right? So just sort of diffusing the, I'm pointing out this weakness to make myself look better, or I'm pointing out your weakness to try to, you know, push you down, which may not be your intent, but I feel like that can happen with negativity, is it can feel more isolating, right? It can make them feel like they're separate, or they're, you know, different or inferior in some way to the group. And again, I feel like that's not as effective. What's up? Are you done, or you need a break, or?
Who, me?
Yeah.
I think we're in queue, aren't we?
No.
Oh god, I thought we were in queue. I was ready to go.
Yeah, we were in queue, but then we left queue.
Did I hit that?
Maybe I hit it. I don't know. One of us hit it, I think.
Oh, shit, sorry.
That's alright. Justifiably hit. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I can appreciate sort of kind of what you guys are saying on the tough love side, and yes, I do think that some people are definitely too soft out there. I can agree with that. But I think there is a middle ground where you can still be, you know, not soft. You know, you can still, I don't even like the word critique because it has a negative connotation, but you can help people improve in a positive, sort of motivating way. And again, it may not even necessarily come down to, like, what's right or what's correct in the abstract sense. You might be thinking, well, I shouldn't have to do this. I shouldn't have to be polite to this person, right? If you're their boss or whatever. But you got to think about it. Even just a stone cold, practical... Hey, thanks, Turbo. I appreciate it, man. Just stone cold practical, even if you don't care or you don't even give a shit about their emotions, if you're like a manager or something, if you're just trying to get the best results out of people, you need to, I think it's best to sort of figure out what's the optimal way to motivate them. Even if it's something that you personally disagree with. I had a manager that struggled with this. When I worked at a Bonefish for 8 years, we got a new manager like 3 or 4 years in. He was great with managing the nuts and bolts of the store, right? Like, he cut overhead costs, he cut waste on the food, he came up with some creative ways to market. Like, he was really good with the numbers, but he struggled a lot with the people because he was, you know, ex-military, and he was such a tough-skinned person himself that when he was dealing with other people, he had a hard time understanding, like, it's kind of like what y'all are saying, right? He had a hard time sort of understanding that other people might feel a different way, or other people might be motivated by something other than tough love. You know, they drop a dish or something, you know, he'd just be like, what the fuck, that's $5, don't drop that dish again, right? And, you know, he kind of had a loud voice, he was a big guy, had kind of an intimidating presence, and sometimes he would just tell people how it is, and he'd get some of the servers that would cry or whatever, and his intent usually wasn't necessarily to be mean, but he would just point shit out that he thought was a problem, and he was just very blunt. He was like, fix it, right? But he would be yelling it sometimes, even though he wasn't emotionally invested in it to some extent. And so he had he never said this, but I could tell he was probably seeing some kind of counseling or some kind of coaching on leadership, something like that, because I would hear certain phrases that he started to adopt, that sort of, you know, rhetorically, I'm like, okay, that is a practiced phrase that he's been coached about. He would, you know, he would come up and he would say, okay, I'm really upset about this because you did this and this. I would like for you to fix it. Please don't talk to me for 15 minutes while I get over it, or something like that. You know, he would say stuff like that and then like walk away. So he was becoming better at sort of expressing his frustration and using these different tactics so that people could see he's not trying to be a douchebag. That's just how he feels about stuff. And he's trying to be, you know, somewhat considerate. And he worked on it. He ended up becoming, I wouldn't say, you know, I think it's still something that he struggled with every now and then, but he genuinely usually wanted the best for people. It was just, that's how he was brought up, I think, with his sort of parenting and the military and all these other places. But he really blossomed as a leader, I think, once he started adjusting a little bit. And I wouldn't say he was necessarily still very soft. We weren't all like holding hands, you know, at the end of every shift. But I thought he was funny. I thought he was great. I would laugh when he'd get, because he was like very sarcastic about shit, and just the way he would like insult me or insult other people, it was just this sarcasm, you know, almost like locker room kind of humor. But, you know, some other people, it just stressed them out. I thought it was funny. One time I asked, I mean, there are a lot of sayings, but there was one, the power was out or something, but like the alarm was still working on one of the doors. Or maybe it wasn't working. And I was like, is the alarm on the door still working or whatever?
But I want to be free.
And he was like, yeah, it's black magic or something like that. Just started laughing, and I just laughed, and he was kind of short about it. And it's like, it's witchcraft. But I was like, well, I didn't know. I thought it might have been battery powered or something. He's like, no, it's not working. That's like a really innocuous one, but... And I don't agree with all of his decisions he made, you know, in the story. But ultimately, again, I didn't have a problem with him, and there were several people that didn't necessarily. They could kind of take the tough love kind of stuff, but
It don't take a lot of words to tell the truth.
for him to really become a more powerful leader, he had to recognize that you got to communicate to different people different ways.
Daya! Hey! Hate it when
I don't know. Well, you might think that it's up to the employees to get it, but you know what? If you keep doing that and your employees quit, at the end of the day, you go out of business. That's what I'm saying. Like, it doesn't matter what's right or what's wrong. It's about practicality. If you want high-quality employees, you're gonna have to have high quality communication a lot of times. He could just say anyone that doesn't like it hit the road, and they would have, because it was not a super profitable restaurant for a long time. Especially like in this work environment, they're just gonna go work somewhere else. And you could be losing out on really high quality employees too over something that's very like fixable. So yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like in the abstract, it doesn't really matter who's right or who's wrong or like what should happen. It's all about just practical considerations. I mean, you could decide if it's worth it to not. Like if you feel like you're being fake and you don't want to cater to their demands, whatever it is. And there definitely can be some demands that are that you might think are unreasonable. Right? Maybe all the employees say they want to get paid $30 an hour in your warehouse and they want to only work 3 days a week and they want to break every 30 minutes, right? You could say, I'm not doing that.
An enemy has been slain. An ally has
But
been
it's just
slain.
understanding that that kind of communication does have a huge impact on leadership.
Magic, we call life.
And there are some bosses that are notorious, that are like pretty successful, that are notoriously kind of douchebags, right? Like I think Steve Jobs, from what I understand, was a pretty rough boss and ran a very successful company. Now I don't know the whole story, like maybe he got someone else to handle HR at some point, I don't know. But either way, there are definitely a very large contingency of people that respond better to practical positivity.
I can improvise. Humans will never understand our kind until they hear the song.
I know personally though, if someone's a douchebag, like it depends on their rapport. Like my rapport with him is fine, and I'm pretty good with humor. But if someone was just like straight up a douchebag to me the whole time about different things,
I am born in magic. This is my destiny.
then I typically like I'm not gonna respond super well to that.
An ally has been slain.
Okay, here comes your deer
because
then.
I'm free.
If he kept going, I maybe could have flashed. I feel like I'd do a lot better if I admire or respect the person. Like I did have one professor, actually I had two,
We talk about
at a previous university that were like pretty negative to me. Like one of them was like, you know, that was, you were like the worst student I've ever had, basically. One of them said, it was just like really pompous, arrogant, you know, all this kind of stuff. And I was like, what? Because I was afraid I had offended another professor because, I don't know, she was just, I don't remember exactly what it was, but I was not getting a good vibe. So I went to, and she was like my mentor there. She's the person who brought me there that said, you know, we really want you here. She's the reason I chose that university over a different one. And then it just like,
I'm offended by how little attention I was given.
I mean, I wasn't like going home crying about it, but I was just like, fuck this person, right? At a certain extent, but I couldn't get away from this person. They had to be on my committee. And I think it was just inconsistent because at times she was trying to help out. She would recommend certain conferences, and we had like some interactions that were okay sometimes. So it was just like that one interaction just really changed the narrative a lot. And, you know, a lot of it was kind of demotivating. I don't know, like, what are you citing? Like, what kind of study could possibly say that strangers randomly saying negative things to people is more motivational than, like, practical positivity? Like, what's the fallacy? I don't, like, fallacies usually refer to, like,
Don't leave nothing. Bring
rhetoric,
it all.
right? Like, Like, I don't know that that's... I guess it depends on how you're using this term, but...
I mean, I'm trying to come down here. I'm slow, but I'm coming.
What the fuck? Does her little dash... I guess her little dash does damage? I didn't realize that. I thought it was just a dash.
Man, have you seen that forest over there?
So, I don't know. I mean, it's... You do you. But I would venture to guess it's not going to yield great results if people are randomly rude to other people out in public.
They're gonna try and
It's just
test
me. But you guys might have different results.
An ally has been slain.
I got 3.
This feels like it's really bad networking too. Again, I'm trying to be like as Machiavellian as possible, right? I'm trying to be like just straight up, like you just don't even give a shit about anyone's emotions, just like what's practical, even from a very selfish perspective, right? For you personally, like if you're negative to people,
It's awesome.
they will not want to help you out most of the time, right? So if you're negative to a certain stranger, you tell them they suck, they're dumb, they're fat, or whatever. You never know when that person, you might need something from them at some point in your life, right? Or one of their friends, or they're part of an organization.
Oh, do I live?
Yep.
God, you're a beast. I just did. I should have hit that ult. I didn't.
Especially if you do that consistently to everyone around you, people just aren't going to work with you. They aren't going to want to help you out. It's tough. Like if you're in a workplace, right, and you're just like, you know what, Cindy, that report was absolute dog shit. Like, why are you so bad? Get good. Especially if you talk to like a superior. Like, imagine telling your boss, hey man, that was a really dumbass decision. I think you should be fired.
It's a revolution.
Yeah, I mean, it has consequences, right? Like, negativity definitely has consequences. Again, are you right or wrong? It's like, yeah, maybe if you secretly polled, you know, the other 20 people that watched that presentation, and you worded it like, was this presentation optimal or could it have improved? Yeah, maybe 90% of people might say that presentation could improve. It wasn't necessarily optimal. But most people aren't going to come out and say that because they understand that words have consequences. And they know that even if it wasn't the best presentation, it's in their best interest not to say anything about that to some extent. Now, if Cindy has to go give that presentation at a national conference or something, and she wants some productive feedback, you could talk to Cindy privately about that. If you have a high ethos with her, and say, hey Cindy, can I talk to you about that presentation a little bit? And then come up and say, hey, I really liked what you were talking about on slide number 3, but I think you're going to need some more evidence for that. I'm not sure that this academic audience is going to buy into that argument, right? And this is how you see it. Most people do it in academia, right? If you're given a presentation, you know, your mentor or a professor or someone on a panel, usually they give you some feedback.
I feel like my allies aren't recognizing how amazing my cloak is.
But usually, I mean, it's not always in private. Sometimes it's, you know, in a public forum, but it comes from a place of positivity for a lot of people, but it just depends. It depends on the setting. And that's a super professionalized environment, too.
I'm just here for the party.
An ally has been slain.
But it's requested, yeah. And even if feedback is requested, like, people aren't just gonna say, yeah, that's shit. The presentation's garbage. Like, that's not useful feedback.
I need my love to hurt. The world is scary. I don't apologize for it. I feel good.
complaining against her. But it's like her first arrow she's thrown, I think.
A little spark of madness.
So I don't know. There are different leadership styles. Again, I've seen people do the approach you guys are advocating for. I just think it's a very, at best, it's a very elite approach, right? Like, it's only going to work with really elite people that have a really high level of self-efficacy, have really high confidence in their abilities, or in very specific sort of social environments. Again, military, sports.
They want us in cages.
Things of that nature. I just don't think for everyday Joe and Jane on the street that's going to be an effective, I would say, leadership style, but again, you haven't earned that leadership if it's just someone random on the street.
You aren't a little frightened?
In a run, clearing the entirety of BRD.
Is my cloak right?
I mean, there are a lot of
Yes, it
quests though,
is.
right? At
Weren't there
least.
for a second.
I don't know if I would do it multiple times. Like, it's a cool dungeon, but I don't know. Maybe I would. Farming
I'll come
SM
back.
seems to be pretty effective. I mean, Thresh is going to lantern her probably.
Kick some ass.
I don't have any mana, boys.
I am a chronic life. The humans call it battle. It's just a dance.
Two levels and 30 gold. Well, that's good. Hell yeah. That's worth. I mean, I kind of like dungeon farming rather than going out in the world because, I don't know, like, the world quests are cool, but there's just like, unless you find a spot where you're just able to do your thing, and definitely any quest, like, there's always people competing for it, it feels like. Yeah, I've had some where I just, like, ran around in a cave and farmed shit. And I was leveling probably as fast or maybe similar to like the Scarlet Monastery stuff.
When you open your eyes,
What level are you?
I am level, I think, 33 now.
if it don't get out of control, it ain't a party.
I mean, sometimes with groups, like you're waiting on somebody else, you know? It's just like inefficient. But if it's a really popular dungeon, like there's always people going for the Scarlet Monastery stuff. But yeah, if you're trying to find like ST or something, I don't know. There are some like relatively obscure dungeons.
It's all filthy and dangerous. And that's why I love it.
About to be some action middle, it looks like.
Why is it taking so long to get back to the action?
An enemy has been slain.
Humans made promises. More than I can remember. Die for it.
Absurd amount of ring cloth. Nice. Oh yeah. Ooh, Thresh hit that hook on me. I was dead. He shouldn't have backed there, man. Like, he saw Thresh rolling up. Or he should have seen it. Guys, gotta let it go. They could probably dive.
I'm gonna take all they got, then laugh and throw it away. I stand because I'm free. that even possible?
That really helped me get back in the game.
Oh yeah.
When I get sad, I stop being sad and be awesome instead. True story.
An ally has been slain.
Who died? Oh shit. That's right before well, we still got a minute, I guess. That... Who the fuck? Really, dude?
Who is it?
I will
Trundle?
make them dance.
No, it's the
I will make them
Jin.
hear.
Oh.
guy who just died. It's like, how the hell did she even sneak up on you? You have Boots of Swiftness and Gale Force, like...
I look around these forests and I see freedom.
What the hell?
I hear the music.
Sunfire Demonic's good. I don't know, maybe. I don't know his AP ratios. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, Sunfire's kind of good on almost anybody right now. What the fuck? God damn it, that silence. It's like forever. I gotta play around that better, I guess.
Yep. If I'm gonna see the human world, I need to start. It is a song you cannot resist.
Alright, Trouble's getting top.
Imagine what it's supposed to be.
I guess we're just giving this
Your
drag.
team has destroyed a turret.
Well,
They're kind of low.
I do not wish to know the murder.
She's gonna arrow. Okay, she missed though?
Enemy kills.
That's about to be a disaster.
Enemy
Don't
red.
have Shirelias yet. Oh, it's gonna be rough. Fuck.
Enemy double kill.
Yeah, I guess we should have given it. Are you 4 hours? I mean, 2 levels in 4 hours is pretty good though, right? I think. I don't know what the joyous journey stuff. In fact, in the 50s though, that seems like that has to be pretty good though.
Then they will know. Whoops! Now you are dead. Ladies and gentlemen, I am here to entertain myself, mostly, but you too. There's wildness in the bees and the flowers. I'm here. I'm gone. I am so gone.
Ash is bottom. If I would have flashed out, that would have been so much cleaner.
An enemy has been slain. Enemy rampage.
Damn, they did it without Ash. Fuck, if I just flashed. What did I even get killed by? Just her probably random AoE, W.
Okay, Rakan. Let him watch. Then burn him.
Your turret has been destroyed.
Tanking is so hard.
Probably running.
Like, to get a spot, man. It's just like, you have to know somebody, pretty much. Or start your own guild. But it's like a ton of work.
Has been slain.
Now, if you find like an
I'm so fine,
extremely
I gotta
new,
kiss myself.
like, guild, maybe. I haven't checked to see if Gormick has contacted me yet. She does have a lot of healing. They don't have that much on their team though. They need to make sure we don't die. I think I'm just gonna get Knight's Vow here.
I got my look right. I got my moves right. Time to show it.
I mean, you could heal or you could go Brett or something. There are a lot of paladins anyways, but...
By the turret. Oh, I'm dead.
Aatrox, I forgot Aatrox has healed for a fuck ton too. Maybe I should have gone Grievous. God, I wish there was a tanky... I mean, I guess I could go Thornmail. But it feels kind of weird, but maybe I should be thinking about Thornmail more often. Because then that would give me armor, it would give me health. It doesn't have CDR on it though, I don't think, right? So that's kind of awkward. And it's like them hitting me for the spine, or for the little ricochet, would feel bad. Like the CC would apply the 60%. It is more expensive.
They're scared of darkness. They're scared of magic. They are scared
I was just really thinking about her. I wasn't really thinking about Aatrox. Aatrox doesn't... I guess he does have some healing, but like his base kit heals for a lot with his ult. I don't think the anti-healings work. I don't know. It's tough. It's just like... interesting to see how much they've healed. Blade is not that much healing. Blader and King I don't think is that much healing. Like, it's 1200 healing off of Death's Dance from... what's her name? We need to leave, man. What are we doing?
fun.
She's going top.
I need some fun.
I mean, she's top. Can we...
Your team has destroyed a turret.
Oh, we're dead.
Yeah, she's just gonna end it. Damn, I thought that Thresh ended right there.
Shut down. A summoner has disconnected. Defeat.
You know, I would at least wait for me to hear from Gormick. He might be asleep. I'm not sure if I'm going to hear from him or not tonight, but he's probably got to talk with some people and figure out what's going on too.
Yeah, Trump did nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I could have gone Grievous. It felt like we maybe had a chance. There just like that dragon fight was kind of rough, and then there was a fight in the middle, I think, where I tried to get involved in something, and then that gave him the Baron. I don't know. Not my finest game. Like, obviously Trundle had a bad game, but we just have to figure out a way to carry that stuff. But anyways, all right, man. Well, I got to roll out, but good games. On the positive side, we're what, plus one or plus two, something.
Yeah.
So I'll catch you next time.
Tomorrow?
Yes, sir. I'll be on tomorrow.
All right, I'll catch you.
All right, see you.
See you.
Okay, everybody. And that's going to be it. Thank y'all very much for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow around 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hopefully, the extended meditations on leadership weren't too annoying or boring. Again, I don't mind getting into those kind of philosophical conversations as long as everybody's civil. I think everybody was civil. Just kind of different perspectives on things. But that's okay in my mind. But anyways, I'll try to do the some more on the tier list this week. I know we've got a couple of changes that are interesting coming out, and we'll just push forward tomorrow and see if we can keep that upward momentum. But thanks, have a good day, and we'll see everybody next time.